Hey guys, Carl from Purple Moose Plays. Today I'm going to be taking a look at Dungeon Drop and its expansion Drop Too Deep from designer Scott Smith and publisher Phase Shift Games. This is a dexterity game that uses cubes dropped out onto a table representing a sort of a dungeon, with cubes representing pillars being used to create triangular shaped rooms from which you're collecting other cubes that are treasures and fighting off monsters along the way. This is going to be a special video because I'm actually going to be doing two playthroughs because the original base game has a solo mode called the Solo Spelunker mode, and now this new expansion is including or introducing a new co-op mode called the Fearless Fellowship that can also kind of be played solo as well. So I'm going to be doing both a Solo Spelunker and a Fearless Fellowship playthrough, but using all of the components from both the core base game and all of the additions from the new expansion in both of my playthroughs. Quick disclaimer, while these are my own copies of the games, you will see on the video that I was given a free sort of copy of the playmats and the walls for this game. So I did receive some compensation in the form of playmats and walls from the publisher, so I wanted to put that out there now. But as always, I will do my best to give you my own honest opinion on the game and how it plays. With that said, let's head down to the table to see how both of these modes play, and then I'll meet you back up here to let you know what I think. Couple things before I get started. First, you see out here on the screen, there are two playmats here that I've got connected together in the middle with these wall pieces on the outside. These do not come with the game, but they are available for purchase separately from the publisher. And I did mention up top in my disclaimer that I was given these playmats and these walls from the publisher for this review, but otherwise all of the game pieces, the actual games themselves, means the game and the expansion, are my own copies of the game. With that out of the way, I want to remind you that for this playthrough, I will be playing 2 times. The first time I'm going to play with the original Solo Spelunker mode, which was in the original base game box, but I will be playing with the components of the expansion mixed in. And then after I've played that to some extent, I'm not sure if I'll do a full playthrough of that, and you'll see why in just a minute. But after I've done the Solo Spelunker mode, I will do a complete playthrough of the new co-op Fearless Fellowship mode from the new expansion as well. To set up a solo game of Dungeon Drop with the Solo Spelunker mode, first begin by choosing a hero. And I'm going to be using the sort of twist to the rule from the expansion, and that says that we're going to take these hero cards, give those a good shuffle, and I'm going to choose or take the top 2 cards, and then I'm going to choose which hero I'm going to use from those top 2 cards. So looking at those cards, I've got the option of the Hawkman, which says I have the flight ability allowing me to form a room using 1 additional pillar. Or I've got this half-orc ability, which allows me to flick 1 monster. I think this character looks cool, so I'm going to go with the half-orc for this playthrough. And then next doing the same thing with the class cards, giving those a good shuffle like that. And I will again choose 2 of those. And you will see I've got the choice of Rope Master, which says I can redrop 1 treasure from my stash to redrop a pillar, collect the treasure closest to the redrop pillar. Or the Rogue, which says Shadow Find, collect 1 treasure outside the dungeon boundary. In this case, pillars are going to be important for me in the solo mode, so I am going to take the Rope Master, and then I will place the other card back into the deck. Also, I do want to go back 1 step before I continue setting up the game. For the solo mode, I want to put out this Solo Spelunker card, and I'm just going to set that off down here at the bottom, like that. And I'll explain how this works later when I get into gameplay, but I'm going to mark off that card with both this Solo token and this green Relic Cube token. Relic Cube starting at nothing, just off the board, and the Solo will start at round. That's just going to be a round tracker. So we will be starting at round 1. And then just to save some space on screen, I will slide some stuff down like this. And then next to that sort of tracker card, I'm going to place out this 2-sided player aid card. And I'm going to use this in just a minute to help explain how things work in the game. But I just want to keep that out so I can use it when needed. And then because of the way that the Solo Spelunker mode is going to work, I'm going to set out the remaining class cards here on the screen as well. And then I do need to choose my quest for this first floor. And there are a few quests that need to be removed in the solo mode, but rather than removing them, I'm just going to go ahead and choose one of these quests. And if it is one of those, I will remove it and choose again. So for this one, I am playing Fool's Folly for the first floor of my dungeon, and that is okay. So I'm going to set that out right there, like that. And I'll place out the rest of these quests on the screen. Let's just stick them right here. And if I need them, well, when I need them, they will be available to me right there. And then finally, to finish setting up the cards, because I am playing with the expansion Drop Too Deep, I will also be placing out the huge monster cards. Again, shuffling those and sticking them up here like that. And also this Molten Shield card, which will be coming into play when the Molten Shield is dropped into the dungeon later on in gameplay, or if it is dropped in. Then also down here in the lower right corner, just off screen, I'm going to be placing these life tracker tokens. And up here next to the huge monster cards, I will put all of the huge monster cubes to be ready when needed. And then finally, to finish setting up the dungeon, I'm going to be dropping in all of the small cubes in the game. And I'm not going to try and explain what all of those are yet. I'm going to use this card in just a minute to explain some of that to you. But for right now, all of these small cubes plus the meeple for my character. And I'm going to drop that into the dungeon from somewhere between 6 and 12 inches off the table. So we'll go from right about here. And I will lay my character down just so you can see them better. And the other thing that I need to do to check in this solo mode is that the staircase is inside the dungeon. And the staircase is down here, and there's no way to form a room with that staircase, so I am going to redrop that staircase piece. And looking again, strangely enough, there are no pillars beyond this point in my dungeon, so again, I will drop that one more time, and one more time. Okay, let's make this work. And that will work. That is now inside the dungeon, and we are all set up to play. So before I get into explaining exactly how the game works, there is one last thing you need to do as part of setup for the Solo Spelunker mode, and that is to set our first sort of starting room. And to do that, I need to find 3 of these gray pillar pieces. And I'm going to choose a room that includes my character that forms a triangle with those 3 pieces. And I should explain a little bit before we do that. So let me go ahead and use this card just to show off all of the different pieces that there are in the game and how they work. First off, the staircase is going to be how I escape each level of the dungeon, and I'll explain that in a minute as I get more into gameplay. But there are regular pillars right now that I'm going to be using to form a room, and later there will be forbidden pillars. Those are going to be big cubes that get dropped in later. Then there are some monsters. There are goblins that do 1 damage, trolls that do 2 damage, and then there are the huge monsters that, again, will come into play over here later on. And then for treasure, there are normal treasures. There's gold, which scores 1 point each. There are keys and chests. Keys do nothing unless you have a chest, and chests do nothing unless you have a key. But when you have them together, at the end of the game or at the end of that level of the dungeon in the Solo Spelunker mode, I will roll the chest like a die, and whatever number comes up, that's how many points it's worth. So somewhere between 1 and 6 points. Clear gems, blue gems, and pink gems, or all of the gems, are going to score dependent on the quest that you're using for that particular playthrough, and I'll explain that again in just a second. And we've got a bunch of different consumable treasure. I've got armor pieces, which are the gray ones that have little armor drawn on them. Those are going to reduce the damage taken from 1 monster by 3. Health potions, which are these sparkly purple ones, they'll heal 3 damage. Magic shields. When I have a magic shield, I can use it to ignore all damage from 1 monster. Molten shield does the same thing as magic shield, except it will have special rules based on this card over here. And then finally, the relic is what we're going to be needing to collect in this Solo Spelunker mode, and we're going to use those to level up later on. But again, I will explain that when we get into gameplay. The reason I wanted to explain that first before I talk about how the game plays is because as I choose my first room, I need to be careful that if I choose a room that starts with some goblins in it, I'm going to be taking damage. And my character, as shown here on the card, only has 5 health. So I don't want to take a whole lot of damage if I can avoid it. Because the point of the Solo Spelunker mode is that I'm trying to go down into the dungeon deeper and deeper and deeper, collecting relics. And the more relics I can collect before I either die or give up is going to sort of be my endgame score for the Solo Spelunker mode. So let's go ahead and set up a first room. There are lots of options. I don't want to get too badly hurt is the biggest problem. If I do, and just before I use this, I want to show you this. This is the stringy thing that they sell from Phase Shift Games as well that I will be using. This again doesn't come with the game, but you can buy it for fairly cheap on their website. But otherwise, sometimes I use the line-based laser pointers, which also work well. But this is also just a badge clip that you could buy at a store. So if you want to buy your own, that works too. Anyway, I want to use this gray cube and this gray cube and this gray cube maybe. And let's see what happens. If I do that, that gold piece is right here is just partially inside that room. Then over here, the goblin is not. So we're going to end up with this gold, this pink, and this goblin. And that's fine, like that. And again, I'll explain how the different treasures work, but for right now, that goblin is going to hurt me. So I'm going to take 1 damage by covering up one of the hearts on my card, like that. And then, because this is my starting room, I'm going to take these 3 pillar tokens and replace the pillars that I used in the starting room with these tokens like this. Because those tokens are basically going to be the way that I move around for the rest of the game. So with that, we are completely set up for the Solo Spelunker mode. And the Solo Spelunker mode is going to play out mostly like a multiplayer game, except that the monsters will only activate on the beginning of the 1st, 4th, and 7th round. So right now, and then again in the 4th round, and then again in the 7th round. And my job is to run around this dungeon collecting these green relic cubes. And then eventually when I've decided I'm done in that level, I will go to these stairs and get out, moving on to the next level or deciding to retire early. If at any point I die, well, then I die. But if I don't die, what I'm trying to do is, for every level of the dungeon, I need to score a number of points in order to sort of clear that level of the dungeon. And that score that I need to clear is going to be based on the number of relics I have at the end when I go to the stairs. It means not including any new relics I collected that round. I'm going to figure out how many relics I have. So right now I have 0 relics. And with 0 relics, I need to score 15 points plus whatever total health my hero has. So that's 15 plus 5 is 20 points I need to score in order to survive this level. If I had 1 to 2 relics, it's 20 plus health. 3 to 4 relics is 25 plus health. 5 to 6 relics is 30 plus health. And 7 to 8 relics is 35 plus health. And again, if we ever die while playing, that's the end of the game and we've lost. And the way that we're going to die is if we ever run out of turns, means we run out of cubes to add to the dungeon before leaving that dungeon, that's a loss. Or if we can never find a room that won't kill us because there are too many enemies in all of the rooms that we can make, we will die. Otherwise, we will be leaving the room or leaving the dungeon using the stairs. But when we leave the dungeon using the stairs, I can choose to retire if I want to quit there because I don't think I can do any better. Or if my score level wasn't high enough to clear the threshold of that current level. So right now, if I couldn't get 20 points, but I was able to escape the dungeon, I would still be sort of ending the game as a win, but my score would be really, really low because I hadn't really collected much stuff. So if I choose to retire or I retire because my score is not high enough, I'm going to see how many relics I was able to collect and compare that to a sort of score table in the book. Now I mentioned on the 1st, 4th, and 7th rounds we are going to awaken the monsters, and then we're going to add an additional huge monster to the dungeon. So looking at this one right now, I'm going to be adding the Evil Eye to the dungeon. So I will place that card there, find the cube for the Evil Eye, and drop him into the dungeon. And he bounces all the way out to the edge, so I'm not real worried, except that His ability, not now, but the next time the dungeon gets awoken, each hero places one treasure from their stash on this card if able. So that he's going to keep stealing my treasure if I don't get rid of them. But when I kill him, I will take whatever treasure is left on him. And again, the dungeon's only going to awaken on the 4th and 7th rounds. But later on, when I start dropping things in, if we use any of those forbidden pillars that I mentioned before, that's also going to cause the monsters to awaken, or the dungeon to awaken. Although in that case, we won't be adding any new monsters, we'll simply be activating whatever is out on the board. So, the way that it's going to work per each turn is that I'm going to take this bag. Again, an additional purchase, doesn't come with the game, but can be bought from the publisher. I'm going to reach into that bag and I'm going to draw out 4 cubes from the bag, dropping them directly above the room where my person currently is. Like this. And if any of those things land inside the room where I am, that's okay, nothing happens. I'm going to have to create a room that contains those things in order for something to happen after that. And then, what I need to do next is, I need to create a new room that is made up of 2 of the pillars I'm currently using in the room I'm in, plus 1 that I'm not. So basically what I'm doing is, this is the room that I'm in, and I'm sort of stepping over the edge of the room into another room somewhere. And I'm hoping to collect stuff along the way. But remember, I need to score enough points before leaving that dungeon in order to clear that sort of point threshold. But before I make that room, I get a chance to use one of my 2 abilities, either from my race card or from my class card. And those are only going to be able to be used once per dungeon level. So I need to be careful before I just make use of them crazily. But I can see this room over here is not bad. Using these 2 pillars and this pillar over here, it looks like I'm going to get 2 relics. I'm not going to score any points for that room, but I'm going to pick up this relic and this relic. I'm going to get hit 2 more times, but I also get an armor, which would be nice. And then once I've got relics, which are good because that's sort of the main goal of doing well in this game, then I can focus on picking up more treasures, hopefully, as I get into dropping more stuff into the dungeon. Right now I've got 1 point for this gold that I picked up before, and based on my quest, that pink gem gets me 1 point. So right now I only have 2 points. I'm looking for blue gems a lot, and also chests are going to score me an additional 3 points. So I wouldn't mind getting some chests along the way as well. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take this pillar and put it here where this one is, and then put that token over there like that. And I will collect those 2 relics, this little green guy right here, this little green guy right here, and a piece of armor. So I take 2 more damage, which is not good, because I'm not re-healing in this game, unless I get a potion. There is a potion right up here, and there is another potion right down here as well. All right, so I stepped into that room like that. That's the end of the first round. I move into the second round, and we do the same thing. 4 cubes, starting above my room, like that. And then, let's see. I'd love to be able to find a room over here somewhere. And I can do that if I use my Rope Master, potentially. It may not turn out well, but I can try. All right, so what that says is, I'm going to turn that to say that I've used it, redrop 1 treasure from my stash, which in this case is probably going to be that pink gem, from my stash to redrop 1 pillar. So I'm going to take a pillar from down here that I don't need. Let's say this one, and we're going to redrop those. And that didn't really help. I was hoping it would end up over here, and it didn't. But I also now get to pick up the treasure closest to the redrop pillar, which is this blue cube, which is great because that's worth 3 points. So I've got 4 points, 2 relics, and some armor. Armor, again, is going to block 3 damage if I pick something up. But I need to work on scoring some points, and I don't have that ability right now. So, looking at, pick up that flaming. If I go here and do this room right there, I could pick up a gold and pick up this. If I do this one right here, I'm not sure that gold is included. Yeah, it should be. Gold and that pink. And that sets me up for some good stuff over that way. Yeah, let's do that. I'm going to take this cube right here. So we'll do this and put that one over there. And that room contains this gold and this pink, and we move in there like that. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. All right, round 3. 4 more cubes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dropping over my room like that. I like it. Now, I'm going to use these 2 plus this 1. And I think that blue cube should be included, yes. And I think those trolls are far enough away they don't count. So I'm basically going to get this magic shield and this blue cube. Okay, I guess so. There's not a whole lot of stuff for me to collect. All right, then. I don't need to flick a monster, so I'm not going to use my ability. Then I'm going to move this cube there, like that. Moving into this room, which again gets me, oh, I don't know that it does. I need that one. Sorry, that's a mistake. I want that cube, not that one. Because that one gets me the blue cube. I don't get the magic shield that way, but I get the pink. So I get those 2. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I still need 10 more points, which is not going to be easy, but that's okay. Yes, that is that for this round. Round 4, now is when the dungeon reawakens. First things first. Each hero places 1 treasure from the stash on this card. So he's taking one of my, yeah, he's taking a pink cube. Then we're drawing, then the Molten Shield also activates, which says, if unattached, attach the closest small or large monster. The monster deals double damage. So the closest one is this little goblin who's now covered with a Molten Shield, so he will do 2 damage if he gets picked up by me. Adding another monster this time, we've got Cyclops. Now he doesn't get activated until the next awakening, but he will get added into the dungeon. So I drop him in over there. Okay, 4 more cubes. Dropped over the room where I am. We've got 2 treasures, a blue and a clear. Like that. Okay. The problem is I don't have a lot of health left. I got 2 health left. I do have 1 shield. So what's gonna have to happen is I am gonna use the flick 1 monster ability to get one of these orcs out of there. And I don't think that worked. I flicked too hard because now if I look that pillar and that pillar, I'd say that orc is pretty clearly inside that room. So instead, there is one small problem. And that is, I wanted to use this with that, but this pillar is inside the room, and you can't make a room that would capture a pillar. So, if I do that, I can waste a turn to go in here to get rid of that one. Oh, wait. Yeah, because this one and this one are a problem. If I get rid of that one, I can make that big room. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to move here So this cube is going away. And that. Because now I've got this room here like this and this and this. So I'm in here, and I'm going to take that pink cube, and I'm going to take this goblin with the shield. Now that's going to do 2 damage, which would kill me, except that I have armor, so I'm going to redrop the armor into the dungeon, which blocks 3 damage from 1 monster, so I am safe. And now I have a molten shield, which is going to protect me completely against the damage of 1 monster. Moving to round 5, dropping again 4 more cubes over my room, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to, this pillar over here is going to come right there. And now I've got this room, which means, let me see, is that gold in the room? I'd say yes. All right, so all of this stuff is there. Means I am going to have to use my molten shield to block that that troll's damage. So that goes back in. I am taking 1 damage from a goblin. I'm down to 1 health, which isn't great, but I do got a whole lot of treasure. So I got a clear one, which gets me 2 points, a blue one, which gets me 3 points, then 1, 2, 3, 4 gold, and a magic shield. So let's count up what I've got so far. Magic shield's not worth any points. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 gold. Then 7, 8 with pink. Then 9, 10 for clear. And then I've got 3, 6, 9 is 19 points. 19 is not going to cut it. I need 20 points. All right, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 points. All right, so we move into round 6, or turn 6. Dropping another 4 cubes over my room, like that. All right, and I think we are going to do it. I am taking this one here, like that. Now I've got that room like that. And let's see what we've got here. Yeah, that troll's inside, but I'm okay with that. So I'm going to get this stuff. But I've got a magic shield, so I drop the magic shield to block that troll. And I get another 4 points plus a treasure, but I don't have a key. And I'm in this room now. So I do have enough points now to get out of here. I need to aim for that staircase. So round 7, everything awakens. I have to give 1 something to the evil eye. He can take a gold. Cyclops. Move to the closest pillar and then redrop the pillar over Cyclops. Well, there's the closest pillar, and the closest pillar dropped there. The molten shield, there is one here, so that goblin's going to get attached to that molten shield. And then 1 more monster. We've got the giant gelatinous cube. Make sure that focuses like that, which would start eating treasure, but we're not going to be in this dungeon long enough for that to happen. Gelatinous cube gets dropped in. And then we drop 4 cubes. Like that. Dropped into my room, like that. And we just need to be able to get out of here. Which just became a problem. No, it didn't. We're good. Thankfully, there's a pillar right there, because if I use this pillar right here, that troll would kill me. But this molten one, or not molten, but forbidden pillar is going to be okay. All right, so I'm going to this one, which doing that does reactivate the dungeon. Hold on a minute. That could be a problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I got plenty. Okay, so I'm going to give the Evil Eye one more gold. Cyclops moves to the closest pillar, which is that one, and redrops it. This guy moves to the closest treasure and absorbs it, which it doesn't matter because I'm not going to wait long enough. He'll go there and attach to that treasure. I step into this room, which I think does include that magic shield, which doesn't matter because it's not going to score, but I am going to take those stairs and leave the dungeon. So with that, I need to then count up all my points. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gold, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 times 3 is 12. So I'm at 21. And this I don't have a key for, so that's it. I scored 21 points, and because I have 0 relics, that's clearing my 15 plus. 5 is 20. I'm good. And just so you can see what happens next, I will then descend to the next level. So these both reset. And then I collected 2 relics, so I will place this on 2. The solo resets back to level 1. All of the big treasures go back into the bag to be redropped as we're playing. All of the small treasures will get redropped as I set the next dungeon. All of the huge monsters come out of the board. They will reset as well. And I'll continue cleaning up in just a second, but the next thing that's going to happen is that quest card goes away. We draw our next quest card for the next level of the dungeon, which is going to be the Collector's Curiosity, which says, for each gem type of which I have at least 1 cube, I score 6 points. So I can't score per gem, I only score 6 points for each type of gem that I get. And in addition, for each relic cube I collected in the new version of the solo mode with the expansion added, for each relic I will get 1 more class card. So drawing 2 more class cards. And I just realized that rogue is the one I drew last time, so that should have gone bye-bye. Drawing 2 more class cards, I've got the Demolitionist, which says blast. Choose a treasure outside the dungeon boundary, stack the closest 2 treasures on top of it, and then flick the stack. And the Cultist, which says Dark Ritual, take 1 damage to level up. And leveling up is basically just getting me 1 more of these cards. And I'm going to put that there just so I don't go off the edge of the screen. And I will go ahead and finish resetting. Again, all of the big cubes go back into the bag. All of the little cubes with the pillars replaced by the original 3 pillars will be redropped to set the new level, including my meeple character. So then everything's been cleaned up. We will go ahead and redrop the dungeon like that. You'll notice also that the monsters have been reset for this new level. And again, I need to choose a starting room based on where my guy landed. And the problem we have right now is that I cannot pick up any goblins or I'm dead because I only have 1 health left. Until I get a healing potion or a shield, I can't touch any enemies. I see 1 healing potion's all the way over here, and the other one's outside of the dungeon over there. But I think that if I'm crazy, that to there includes that potion, and then I can go to that gray pillar right there, and that is my starting room. It's a huge room. This goes there. This goes there. And this one goes right there. And again, that should work out like that, that, that. Means I get what's included at the bottom. Probably not that clear one. We have a problem. I can't do that because he's in there. Hold on. That one I'm not inside of. How about this way? I'm not inside of. I may actually have lost already. Hold on. That? No, because he's here. And I don't get to use an ability for this initial drop. So I think that... okay, hold on. First off, those were back there. I may have knocked some other things around, but I can't do that. 1, 2, I found a room that will allow me to live at least. 3, we're gonna do this room. This cube up here, this cube over here, and this cube right there. And that gets me these 2 golds. And I'm alive. Okay, so we'll stay there like that. Then we do awaken our dungeon for the first time. We've got this new guy, the Colossal Contraption. I'll drop him in there. He's going to attach to monsters and become stronger and stronger as we go. Drop him in. Okay, off the side. Then, our first turn, dropping 4 cubes. I need to get a healing potion. Dropping 4 in my room. Okay. How do I get that? Oh, easy. Okay. So now I can do that. Putting that there. I step into this room like that, which I believe does not include that one. No, good. And I'm not sure, this may be stretching the rules here, because that's a wall, and that's a wall. So going from here to here, it's not really following the theme of the game, but it just says create a new room that uses 2 of the same pillars as the previous room. But this is sort of part of the original room. So you know what? Following the spirit of the game, I'm not going to do that, because I don't really know if you're supposed to. And if you are, then I'm just making this the hard mode of the game. So I am in there. I got to cross that line, or that line effectively. Which means I can use this one right here. So this goes here. This goes there. And between those 2, awesome, I get the green cube, those are there, those are there. So I've got 2 pinks, a relic, and a key for a chest later. So I've got 6 points from that pink one. This one's not gonna mean anything. 7, 8 points. And remember, I'm at 2 now, which means that I need to clear 20 plus my health, which is 5. So 25 is the point I'm looking for right now. I'm at 8. Yes, okay, then moving to round 2, dropping 4 cubes again. 1, 2, 3, 4 over my room, like that. And now I can do what I wanted to do before. That cube over there, this one goes there. I step through this door. And I pick up 2 gold and a healing potion. So now I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, that's not 5, 6. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of 25. I am instantly using the healing potion, which means I drop it back into the dungeon. And of course it goes in a bad place, but that heals me for 3, which is huge. Yay. Next round, round 3, dropping 4 more cubes. Over my room, like that. Now I'm not so scared about getting hurt. The problem is, if I'm following the rule about stepping over the line into another room, I can't because of that. But I can if I used my Rope Master. Redrop 1 treasure. I don't need this pink to redrop that pillar. Now it's in my room, but that's fine. The closest treasure to that pillar is this clear cube, which gets me 6 again. So I've got 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 points. And I need a new room. Problem being here is that This pillar ruins things. I can't use this pillar because that puts that inside the room. And this little room is useless. So I am going back over here, believe it or not. Yeah, so this goes here. That goes there. I step back into this room, which now contains this chest, this gold, like that, which is great. That clear does nothing for me, but now I have a 1 to 6 from that chest. So I've got 6, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and then somewhere between 19 and 24. Still not enough, but better. And I did use that ability. All right, round 4, awaken. Move this guy to the closest small monster, which is this goblin right here. He's attached. They are a unit now. Then, new monster comes out. Also, before I do the new monster, who is Cube Thulu, I have to activate the Molten Shield, who is going to stick to this little goblin over here in the corner. Like that. And then Cube Thulu gets dropped into the dungeon. Bouncing way over there. Okay. Then I can do something. Flick a monster, drop a treasure, take a damage to level up, choose a treasure outside the boundary, stack the closest 2 treasures on top of it, and then flick the stack. That gets me a gold and a treasure chest, potentially. Where's the other healing potion? Here. No. Not great. Let me see what I need to do. From here and here and here. I can go back over that way and do that. I still have to drop 4 cubes first. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dropping cubes. Like that. And I need that blue, so that just clinched it. Okay, then that is where I am going. This goes down here. This goes up there like that. We step in here and I get that white one, I think. Yes. And that treasure. And that blue one. So now I've got 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and at least one is 25. So we're good. That treasure is useless. That extra clear is useless. Good. Then round 5, dropping 4 cubes. I need to get out of this dungeon. I didn't pick up any new relics, but I need to stay alive too. Oh, I did I picked up 1 relic. That's fine. So I'll drop there like that. That troll ruins it. Not really. Okay, good. Then I'm going to use my half-orc ability to flick 1 monster, which is that bad guy there. And according to the rules, when flicking a group of attached cubes, I can flick any or all of the cubes in the group. So effectively, this colossal contraption and goblin are one thing. So I can just go like that to get them out of my way, because I'm going to use that pillar right there. So this becomes that pillar right there. And this comes down here. I step in there, which is this room, which means I get this gold and this troll. And that troll's going to hit me for 2, which is fine-ish. And I am in the room with the staircase, so I am going to leave the dungeon. We count up. I've got 2 treasures, but this one's useless because I have no key, but this one is a key. So I'm going to roll that key, and I got a 4. So 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 points. Plus 3 times 6 is 18, gives me a score of 29. So I did successfully clear this level of the dungeon. I got 1 new relic, so my relics go up to 3. I would draw 1 new class card, the Necromancer, which says that I can redrop small monsters or 1 large monster from my kill pile to ignore a damage. That's pretty cool. But I'm going to stop there because the game does sort of just keep continuing in that way until I decide to retire or I can't hit the score threshold. And I do want to show you the other sort of mode that can be played solo with this new expansion content. So I'm going to stop it there. I'm going to say I'm retiring there. And realistically, in a regular gameplay, I wouldn't retire there because looking at this paper right here, it says that with 1 to 3 relics, I didn't save squat. But anyway, you get an idea of how the solo mode plays. So let me go ahead and reset everything, and I'll walk you through the new Fearless Fellowship co-op mode. All right, so here we are all reset for the Fearless Fellowship co-op mode. And you'll notice first that I've got 2 characters out on the board, and that's because this co-op mode requires you to play with at least 2 characters, as it is really a co-op mode, but the sort of overhead of running 2 characters is not all that huge, so it very easily plays as a solo mode. So I've chosen 2 characters and 2 class abilities. I've got the Dark Man or Time Mage, who can unlock secrets to flick a forbidden pillar, and has Time Rift ability, which lets them redrop 2 gems from my stash to take an extra loot phase. And you'll see what that means in a minute, because things are a little bit different here, but also closer to the original base multiplayer game if you have any familiarity with that. Then I've got this Sleth Witch. Sleth will let me constrict to redrop all cubes outside of the dungeon boundary. And the Witch ability will let me redrop 1 health potion from my stash to collect 2 small non-potion treasures of different types. All of these things will be very potentially useful for the game, but there's one more thing I need to set up first, and that is you'll notice that there are no quest cards out on the screen, and that's because in this co-op mode there are these new goal cards, and we're going to be playing with a set of goal cards depending on the number of characters we're playing with and the difficulty level I am playing. So I am going to be playing on the novice difficulty level with 2 characters, so I will be drawing 4 of these goal cards. I'm going to set those right here, and then from that deck I'm going to reveal the top 3 cards. And the goal of this co-op mode then is going to be finishing all of these goal cards before the end of 3 rounds. Because this game will only play out over 3 rounds. And let me show those to you actually now that I've put them out on the table up closer so you can see what they are. Each of these goal cards is going to have 2 different ways that we can sort of fulfill the goal card. So here we've got Studded Steps, which says either in a single room I need to have 3 small treasure and 2 large treasure, or I need to have collected by 1 character 4 small treasure and 4 large treasure. My next goal is the Thieves' Throne, which says I have to have in 1 room 5 different types of treasure, or collect 8 different types of treasure with my character. And then finally, the third one that we've got right now is the Cavernous Campsite, and this one only gives me 1 option. That says I have to have 5 treasures and no monsters in a room that I've made. And there will be 1 more, but we don't know what that is until I've completed 1 of those 3. Let me just slide those up a little so we have some space here for the monsters when they do come out. In addition, when dropping the initial dungeon, I'm going to be including these 4 character meeples in there because some of the goals will require me to save them as well. So just like I did in the other mode, I need to drop all of the small cubes now, including that character. And actually, I just realized I need to pull the staircase from the solo mode because there is no dungeon level. So that black cube from the solo mode comes out. Everything else will get dropped as normal, like this. And we are ready to play. Only this version of the game is going to play out more like the normal multiplayer mode. And what that means is, first, at the beginning of every round, we are going to awaken the dungeon. So here at the beginning of the first round, I will awaken the dungeon. And this time, we've got a new character, the Chaos Cube. So we'll drop him into the dungeon, and it says that he's got X health. And in this case, X equals 3 plus 2 for each time I've leveled up. And it's worth mentioning that in this version of the game, because we're not playing multiple dungeons, the way leveling up is going to work is anytime I collect a relic cube, I can simply drop the relic cube back into the dungeon in order to level up the character that is dropping it. So we're going to drop that character in there like that. Then, on a turn, you can see on the back side of this explains the multiplayer game, but it's going to be pretty much the same thing. On my player turn, I'm going to explore. And the exploring now, because we're playing with 2 characters, is going to be dropping 6 cubes instead of 4. Then I'm going to act, which means I can use either my class card or a race card. Or instead, I can choose to perform a fellowship action. But I'll explain that in just a second. Because then, after acting, I'm going to loot. The way I'm going to loot is I'm going to find 3 pillars in the dungeon. We're not moving from room to room this time. We're just creating a room. So any 3 pillars, making a triangle, collecting everything that's inside that room. But you'll see in addition to this normal step, I can do a fellowship action instead of acting, and I can also do a fellowship action instead of looting. And fellowship actions means I can swap one goal from here with one from the removed stack of goals that we took out of the game earlier. Then I can use this toss, which means I can simply give one treasure to the other character that I'm playing with. Or I can rally, which means flicking one of these character meeples in the dungeon. So again, I could choose to act and then do a fellowship action. I can do a fellowship action and then loot, or I could simply do 2 fellowship actions on my turn. Then you'll see the third thing we're going to do after taking our turn is checking weight. Normally the weight is going to determine the player order, but in this co-op version, the player order will always be determined by the number printed on the card. So here's 3 and here's 9. Darkmander will always be going first. But we will need to check weight because we need to have 10 or less weight at the end of every round. We can never hold more treasure than 10 weight. And the way that you determine weight is simply counting the number of cubes that you have in your stash that are not monsters. So again, each round, and actually I'll use that staircase cube from before over here on this teamwork track to mark the rounds. This teamwork track is actually from a different mode in the base game, but it's still useful to track rounds. We are going to have 3 rounds to complete all 4 of these goals, or 4 goals of any kind, because remember, I can always use a fellowship action to switch in a new goal. And at the start of every round, we're going to activate the dungeon. So we'll activate the dungeon, Darkmander will take a turn, Sleth will take a turn, and then we'll move on to the next round. And if by the end of 3 rounds I've completed all 4 goals, then I've won. And if not, then I have lost. All right, so starting with Darkmander's turn, the first thing he needs to do is drop 6 cubes. All right, so we're dropping 6 cubes into the dungeon like this. And then I can choose to use an ability, or let me flip that, one of the 3 fellowship actions, which again are swapping a goal, giving a treasure, or flicking a meeple, which I don't need to do right now, but also let's see if we need to use the abilities. I can flick a forbidden pillar, which is here, or I can redrop 2 gems from my stash to take an extra loot phase. I don't have another treasure in my stash. So I'm trying to make a room with 3 smaller treasure and 2 large treasure, which I don't think is going to happen right now. Ooh, it might. Hold on a minute. 5 different types of treasure, 5 treasure and no monsters. I'm looking at, and let me see, can I do this? I think so, yeah, that Molten Tower is not inside those 2 pillars. And I can definitely do this and this. And that should be, yeah, that gold is in there. I'm touching it. Okay, so that gold is in there. So I've got from this pillar to this pillar to this pillar, this triangle collects all of, hold on, I think that clear one is not included, but let me check. Yeah, and clear one is not included, but that's fine. These right here, and looking at that, I've got 3 large and 3 small, which instantly does that one. 5 different types, but unfortunately it's a gold, a key, a shield, not a shield, a magic potion, and a pink. Those 2 gold are not a different type, and that crystal is not included in this room. So I've got only 4 different types, so I don't do that. But 5 treasure and no monsters, that's 6 treasure and no monsters. I'm going to do both of those this round. Great way to start the game. So those get collected by, whoops, the Darkmander. And I'm going to slide that up and put these right here. And again, points aren't going to matter right now. I'm only trying to finish those different goals. So we did that. Awesome. So now he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 different types of treasure. But because we're collecting now and not forming a room, if they are going to complete this without forming a room, they need 8 different types of treasure. And our next goal and last goal is the Diabolical Den, which says I need to have a room with 2 different types of monsters or collect 3 different types of monster. It doesn't seem like it should be that hard, but let's see what happens next. Sleth takes their turn, dropping 6 more cubes. 6 cubes dropping in like that. Now, if I can do 5 different types of treasure in a room, that's great. If I can get 2 different types of monster in a room, that's also great. But I have to also not die. Sleth has 5 hit points. If I look at this room, here to here to here, let me see what happens. Using that molten room, if I connect that and that, the bottom goblin is in the room, the top one is not. Yeah, the pink cube is, the top one is not. That troll is. So if I make this here, here, and here room, I would get those 4 cubes. Drop a health potion. No, that's fine. So you're not. He is, this one is, this one is, and this one is. I get those 4. A pink, a gold, a goblin, and a troll. So I am taking 3 damage. 1, 2, and 3 like that. But I did just get 2 different types of monsters in the same room, so that quest has been completed. And we move on to round 2. Again, Awakening. This says, Chaos Whirl. All heroes pass one of their class cards to the hero on their left. So these 2 are going to switch. Now we've got a Darkmander Witch and a Sleth Time Mage. And we get a new monster who is that Cyclops again. So Cyclops gets dropped in to our dungeon. And we start back again with the Darkmander Witch dropping in 6 cubes. Like that. Whoa, they went flying. Okay. I need to find 3 different kinds of treasure they don't already have, or a room that holds 5 different types of treasure. 3 different treasure they don't have would be armor, a locked chest, blue, and a clear cube. I don't think I'm going to get 3 this turn. Hold on. This, that doesn't work because that's inside of it. All right. I'd love to find a room that has multiple stuff, but I don't know that's going to happen. Okay, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this room. Here and here, doesn't include that goblin, and here. And that gold is in that room. And the other gold is not. So I'm collecting these 3 cubes, which is a gold, a white cube, and a chest. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different kinds of treasure. Right there. Yes, and that's that. Then we move on to the Sleth dropping 6 more. Like that. Again, trying to get 5 different types of treasure in a single room. I don't think it's gonna happen. In here, 1, 2. Well, let's focus on stuff that the Darkmander Witch needs. There's nothing that they've got right now to give. Redrop all cubes outside the dungeon boundary. Sure, why not? Wow, that's a lot of stuff though. I don't think I want to do that. Because the edge of the boundary of the dungeon is here to here. No, here to here. Means all of that stuff and those cubes. Maybe not. Yeah, no, I'm not going to bother. If we need to, we'll do it later. I'm just trying to get stuff that they don't have. Means white cube, blue cube, armor, and so on. There's an armor. There's a blue cube. Yeah, okay. This pillar, and this pillar. It's going to get me hit for 1, but that's okay. They've got health. Means all of this, but I am activating the dungeon. So they're going to get hurt once. Now they've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different types. They take a damage, and we are activating everything here. So we are switching the cards back again. And then move the Cyclops to the closest pillar and redrop the pillar. Cyclops is here, closest pillar is this one or this one. I don't really know, so I'm gonna go here and redrop that pillar. Then the shield is going to attach itself to the goblin that it's already attached to in the corner. Over there. And that's the end of the second round. Third round means we're doing the same thing again. Those switch back again. This guy is going to the closest pillar, which is now here, and redropping that pillar. This is already attached. We draw our next monster, which is the gelatinous cube again. He gets dropped in. And then, Darkmander's turn. And Darkmander's going to win right now because they just got the witch back again, thankfully, which says redrop 1 health potion from your stash to collect 2 small non-potion treasures of different types. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to redrop that. And then I'm going to collect an armor. And this magic shield. No, small. Then an armor and what am I missing? Blue. Okay, so now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I need to make a room that gets me something I don't have, which includes not a whole lot. I got it. Down here, there's a column here, or sorry, a pillar here, and a pillar over here. And that triangle includes just this magic potion. Now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different types of treasure, and we managed to win the game. Now granted, this was novice mode with only 2 characters, but you get an idea of how the game plays, so there's that. So now, while I'm here, I do like to take a look at the components. One thing I do want to show you quickly before we get into more of the component stuff, I just want to show you some more of the gold cards. I'm not going to show you them all because there's a lot of them there, but there are some other gold cards that are a little bit different. Like here is the Healer's Hall. It means collecting meeples, and X is 1 more than a number of hero players. So with 2 players, I'd have to collect 3 hero meeples. Here's the Ancient Arena. Capture a huge monster without using a magic shield or molten shield. That's tricky. Or get 2 huge monsters. Again, really tricky. This is one of those goals you may end up wanting to switch out with that ability. The Sapphire Storeroom, 3 blue gems or collect 5 blue gems. 2 armor or collect 2 armor and a magic shield. Charge Chamber says use 3 consumables of different types during your turn. So you got to sort of collect them and then use them all at once. That's a really fun one. Grizzly Guard Room, a large monster and 1 armor, 2 large monsters and 1 armor collected, and so on. Again, there are many different goals in this box. Looking at the monsters too, you've seen lots of them, but there are a couple more you haven't seen. Now the Flame Demon here that automatically damages people. You saw the Colossal Contraption, Cube Thulu we saw, but we never used it. We redrop this one every time, and if it lands face up, then it sort of destroys one of your class cards. The Lava Kraken redrops all the cubes on the lines between Lava Kraken and each blue gem, and dropping those blue gems as well. Goblin King, redrop all of the goblins so that they're dropped over this character. So you're going to have this one area of the dungeon that's super goblin-y. The Arch Lich, which is commanding an undead army, redropping 1 small monster that we've collected back over the Arch Lich. So basically they're regenerating the monsters we've killed. You saw the Evil Eye. Here's the Dragon. Dragon is hoarding gold, so you're attaching closest gold to that dragon. And again, looking at classes and heroes, again, I'm not going to show them all to you, but I do want you to see a bunch more. Rogue, Adept, Bounty Hunter, Enchanter, Archer, Ranger, Warrior, Pyromancer. You know what? Let's go. Mage, Relic Bound, Arcanist, Beastmaster, Cook, Armorer, Spelunker, Bard, Booby Trapper, Cleric, Monk. Now, I'm not showing you all the abilities because that's going to take a ton of time, but there are lots of different cool kinds of abilities in this game. But more importantly, while I am showing you these things, is because I really adore the artwork in this game. This sort of cartoony character art in this is really, really cute. And it really, really brings this very fun, fantastical element to the game. Here are the characters: High Elf, Moleman, Human, Stonekin, Wood Elf. And you can see these characters are super cute, super fun. Lurkman, Gnome, Dwarf, Dragonkin, Gear Golem, Infernal, Lavaling, Boblin. Boblin's got his own game coming out that I hope to preview on this channel soon as well. Shapeshifter, Shadowfolk, Fairy, Ishim. Just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful character artwork. Taking a look at some of the cubes up close. The gold is super shiny. The same thing with those health potions, super shiny. I love the character artwork on the cubes. Now, I know that in the standard retail version of this game, the monster cubes are not going to have faces on them like that. So these are just regular cubes, but everything else is printed, like these treasure chests, these keys. The armor's really cool. Looking better at the bosses here. Try and turn some of these. Again, this gold one that I have is a promo one. That's not going to be in the standard version of the game, but the rest of these monsters are, and they look so cool. Just the way that even on a simple cube like this, you get so much sort of personality and character out of these different cubes, and the colors do make them easy to tell apart and find in the dungeon when you're playing. But realistically, just the way this looks, now granted it looks nicer because I have the playmat and because I have the walls, so it really does keep everything together. And if you don't have that, you really do kind of want to put something up to block the cubes from flying everywhere. But just the way it looks when it's being played with all of these different things scattered over and you're finding these pillars and making these rooms, it just looks very, very cool and very thematic. And this is a fun one for me because I always film from the top down, and this one is a very nice visual picture on the screen from the top down. Anyway, again, I love the components in this game. Some of the little extra things, these mats and these walls are great. You can sort of slide the walls and shrink the dungeon as small as you want to fill the space that you have available to you while you're playing. And again, these mats are actually 2 mats here, so you could just get 1 mat and slide the whole dungeon over like this and just have a nice tight dungeon. Now, it does mean that things are going to be crowded and the rooms are probably going to hold more stuff. So you want to have as much space as possible, really, because some of these things are going to be harder or easier to do based on the size. But realistically, that's not necessarily true, because if I have a big space, the cubes can be further apart, but there's going to be less stuff inside that room. So here you're making smaller rooms that hold more things versus bigger rooms that hold the same amount of things just spread out. But that is pretty cool that you can sort of adjust things to fit the space that you have. Again, this string thing is cool to have. It definitely is helpful. I often use a laser pointer that shows a laser line on the board as well. That's also helpful. So basically anything you have that's going to help you do that, you are going to want to be able to do something, because sometimes it's hard to see whether something's in or outside of a border. But as long as you're playing with friendly people, you can kind of finagle, you sort of figure it out yourself by talking with your friends. This bag, while very beautiful, is not really necessary because you can sort of pull the cubes out of anything, but this is a nice thematic way to hold it. So I like having it, but I wouldn't miss it if I didn't have that bag. And again, that is an extra additional cost on the game. That's basically it as far as the components go. Meet me back up top and I'll let you know what I think about the game itself. Sorry, real quick, just to show you, I generally show inserts for games. Dungeon Drop, this is the box for the expansion. The regular box for the original main game is similar. It's just a cube and inside is just empty space, which you could actually use for dropping your gems out of if you didn't have the bag. So there's really, again, no need to have the bag. I just wanted to show you, again, no insert, but the cards fit sort of perfectly well inside that box, just like that. And then all of your components, now again, I have some extra components because of the bag and the string thing and all of that stuff. But basically everything sort of just fits in there like that as well. Granted, the deluxe meeples that I showed you for the game don't fit in there. I've got them in my second box. But all of the components that you need to play the game, just to play the game, do sort of fit into this box without any real problem. But again, there's no insert or anything because these are just cubes, but they do exactly what they need to do. And the design, the box art, again, that artwork just does really shine in this game. So again, meet me back up top and I'll let you know what I think about the game. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the playthrough. This one's going to be an interesting one for me to talk about because there are so many different modes and things that I did just do in my playthrough. So I want to sort of break things into pieces, and I'm going to start by first focusing on sort of the core mechanisms in this game and kind of also talking about the multiplayer game, just sort of the general flow of how this game works. I have played this game multiplayer with my family a few times, and I really enjoy the core mechanisms of this game. And what I mean by that is this idea that first we drop a bunch of cubes out onto the table, and then using those cubes, using the gray pillar cubes to sort of form triangular rooms, picking up different kinds of treasures to score points while avoiding the monsters that are also dropped throughout the dungeon. And this really interesting idea that every turn at the start of my turn, I drop more stuff into the dungeon, and then I have this sort of option of using a skill or an ability that I have to interact with the dungeon in some unique way, flicking things, moving things, redropping things, and so on, to try and find the best room that maximizes point potential while also avoiding as much damage as possible. But then also realizing that every turn, the weight is going to matter to determine who gets to go first. So if I'm really heavy, I'm going to go later in the round, and if I'm light, I'll go earlier in the round. And that dynamic is very interesting about how do I collect the best stuff, how do I avoid or prevent my opponents from getting the best stuff, and so on. This idea of this dexterity sort of shape triangulation system where I'm trying to get stuff and manipulating things using my abilities is a whole lot of fun. And then the idea that every time you play this game, and also every person who's playing this game gets a unique quest. So not only are you playing the game differently because you have different unique abilities and different characters that you're playing, but now also you have these quest cards that are giving you sort of different point scoring based on the different gems or different treasures that you're collecting. So you're all focused on slightly different things. And also every time you're playing, you're focused on different things. So you get a little bit of a different feeling every time you play this game based on the different abilities you have, based on the different quests and scoring sort of goals that you have while you're playing the game. And it's a whole lot of fun. It's a really quick and exciting dexterity manipulation kind of puzzle that I really enjoy. And when I heard that this was soloable base game, I did get the base game first. When I heard that this game was soloable, I was really excited. And I pulled it out, and I played the Solo Spelunker mode with just the core game to start. And I was a bit underwhelmed. And let me talk about why I feel that way. Well, the main game is a really fun little puzzle, but it lasts 3 rounds, and it moves really quickly, and it's over before it's been on the table for too long to get repetitive. And the idea and the mechanisms here are a whole lot of fun, and it's quick and it's simple, and it's really exciting and energetic rush through this sort of physical puzzle, right? But the Solo Spelunker mode now exists on this idea that you're digging deeper and deeper in the dungeon, looking for relics, trying to sort of level up your character, getting stronger, going deeper, needing to sort of beat higher and higher thresholds as you go down into this dungeon, and sort of increasing the challenge to see how far can you get, how many points can you score, how many relics ultimately can you collect before dying or retiring. And then you're sort of given this option to keep pushing on every time you clear a level, or just give up and retire and call that your score. And that's going to be based on things like what kind of abilities you have, how much health you have at the end of any given level or at any given floor in the dungeon, and just how much you've been sort of beaten up and destroyed as you're going through this dungeon. And it's a really cool concept. It really does thematically work very well. But the problem is the core mechanisms in this game are such that it's a fun, quick, puzzly romp through this wacky dexterity kind of game. And here the solo mode is trying to make it more strategic, and it's trying to sort of turn it into this dungeon delve, this floor-by-floor exploration survival mode kind of thing. And ultimately what ends up happening is the Solo Spelunker mode just feels too long and too bogged down, and the fun, quick romp that I have in the multiplayer game is repeated and repeated and repeated and repeated to the point where I don't want to keep playing. And that's a problem because I really enjoy it. And I really enjoy the sort of twist that Solo puts on this, in that you're building a room that you land in when you first get there, and then every turn from that point is sort of crossing into an adjacent room. This is a completely different mechanism that doesn't exist in the multiplayer game. And it's a really, really cool one because, again, thematically it really works. I'm moving from room to room collecting treasure until I get to the room with the staircase, and then I can go to the next level. And it really, really is cool. And this idea that as I'm collecting relics and going from level to level, I'm leveling up and getting these skills and abilities that I can use on later levels, that's also really, really, really cool. But the fact that the game is basically finished now, would you like to keep playing? Finished now, would you like to keep playing? And every time I get to a new level, it's like, well, I have been playing this for a little bit longer than I'd like to now, but if I give up now, I'm sort of quitting before I win the game. Or if I give up now, I'm not really achieving my score. So there's this sort of dichotomy, this fight going on in my head that I want to keep going because I want to see how much I can do. I want to keep going because I want to see how much I can score. But the longer I keep going and the more I keep pushing, the less and less I enjoy the game. And that's sad. Because when it's a short, quick game, this game is a whole lot of fun. This idea of building rooms to get treasures, protect yourself, using shields to get the stronger enemies, and so on, is a lot of fun. And this addition of moving from room to room, sort of moving one pillar at a time to go around this dungeon and traverse the space, is even more fun. But then to just turn this into a long, grindy slog through level after level after level is not that much fun. And it always made it so that I didn't want to play this game solo, which is sad because I'm a big Solo fan and I'm a big fan of the core game in this box. But ultimately the Solo Spelunker mode didn't work for me just because it's a grind and it's way too long for me. And now adding in the expansion stuff, I'll talk more about the expansion stuff in a little bit. It does make it a little more fun because it does add a little bit more new stuff and new twists to the game. But ultimately, it's still this long, grindy slog through level after level after level. And to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever finished as far as I would have gone if I was enjoying myself completely, if that makes any sense. Basically, every time I've played this game solo, I play 3, maybe 4 levels, and it's kind of like, all right, let's put this away. Now, realistically, you could play one floor and clean up, and come back another time and play another floor and clean up, and come back another time and play another floor and clean up. But realistically, the amount of thinking and planning, it doesn't take that much setup, but the amount of thinking and planning and so on to do that really isn't worth it for what you're getting out of this solo mode. So with that said, now in the expansion, in addition to the new mechanisms from the expansion, which I will talk about in just a second, this now also adds in a new co-op mode, the Fearless Fellowship co-op mode. And this twists things up quite a bit because, now granted here you do have to play with 2 players. I can't play a single character, so it's not true solo, it's not pure solo. But the amount of overhead for a character in this game is very little. So controlling 2 characters by yourself really isn't that big a deal, and it does allow for some interesting back and forth between the 2 different characters, whereas one character can set up the other character, and you are able to sort of trade and exchange stuff that you're getting from the dungeon. So that adds another level to it. But more importantly, now in this co-op version, we're going back to 3 rounds only. Shorter game, we're not doing this long, grindy slog anymore. And now, more importantly than that, it's not about a score anymore. Now we're throwing away the quest cards and bringing in these goal cards. And now every time I play this game, I'm trying to, depending on the difficulty level that I've set, trying to complete a certain number of goals by the end of 3 rounds. And these goals make it really interesting because now the goals are very specific about what I need to get in those rooms. Now these goals are adding in things like get a room that has this much treasure, or get a room that's only treasure and no monsters, or collect this many monsters and this many monsters. And most of the goals are also sort of dual goals in that I can either work really hard to manipulate the stuff on the board to build a very specific, unique room that scores me or triggers that goal, or if I can't manage to do that, I can do my best to collect a bunch of stuff such that the stuff that I've collected matches the other condition on that goal. So this balance of board manipulation versus super treasure hunting, collecty stuff really is interesting because some of the abilities will work to do board manipulation more, and some of the abilities will help you just bring in a bunch more treasure. And now this does reintroduce the concept of weight, where now it's not going to depend on or not going to cause the initiative order. Instead, the amount of weight is going to be hard capped at 10. So I can't just bring back a ton of stuff because if I bring back a ton of stuff, I'm going to have too much stuff and I'm going to have to drop stuff back into the dungeon. So I really do have to be more focused and stuck to the goals that I'm trying to accomplish at any given time. And I really, really enjoy the way that this goal system works. It's really, really cool, and it makes me think about the puzzle in unique new ways while still maintaining that same core mechanism that I did enjoy so much in the multiplayer game. So I'm really, really excited about the core mechanisms of this new cooperative mode. And the new cooperative mode brings in some of the stuff from the Solo Spelunker, because those relic cubes that you use to level up in the solo mode are now included in the expansion for all gameplay. So anytime you collect a relic, you can continue to level up just like you did in the solo mode, adding new abilities and making those goals potentially easier to achieve because you're giving yourself new goal or new abilities to manipulate both the board and the stuff that you've got in your hand. And that's really, really, really cool. But then focused also on what else the expansion brings in. The expansion is bringing in a couple more things. It's bringing in some more defensive abilities. You've got this armor now that lets you fight off stronger monsters without getting hurt. And you've got a second sort of magic shield, except now this second magic shield is a special shield, the Molten Shield. And that shield will actually attach itself to enemies every once in a while, making the enemy stronger. So you've got to slay a hard enemy in order to get that shield that's then going to protect you from future enemies. And that balancing there is a really, really interesting idea. But most importantly, one more thing that it brings in is the special forbidden pillars. But let me put that to the side, because most importantly, this expansion also brings in these huge monsters. And this is extra cool because until this point, basically the monsters in this game are, here's a cube, you pick it up, you get damage. Here's a cube, you pick it up, you get damage. Except now these huge monsters are coming in. And these huge monsters mean something. They're not just different colors or different sizes. These actually have unique mechanisms that go along with that monster. So for example, you've got a monster that brings all of the goblins to one area. You've got a monster, the ooze, that collects treasure as it moves around and sucks into it. You've got a monster that makes you lose treasure throughout the game as you play. You've got all of these different monsters that have all of these different sort of personalities and things that they do. Some of them are worth points, some of them are extra hard to kill, and this is when you're going to need to use those special shields so that you can slay some of these giant monsters or these huge monsters in order to be able to get to these rooms where they're in without dying. So this idea of new monsters that are harder to kill, but also have unique sort of personalities and abilities really add more thematically and mechanically to this game. And I really, really love what they do. And then now you've got these new forbidden pillars that are adding new pillars into the dungeon, which allow you to create more rooms because you've got more pillars scattered around. But also every time you use the pillars, those huge monsters and that molten shield, their abilities are re-triggered. So that really then brings that sort of new churning action, new ability, personality of the monsters even more to life through the gameplay rather than just at the beginning of every round as the stuff is triggered. So the addition of all of these new mechanisms and the addition of this new co-op mode that's goal-focused, has a 3-round timer just like the regular game, shortens the grind of the solo mode but is still playable solo, gives me challenge that isn't just score a whole lot of points. I really, really, really love what this new co-op mode is doing, and I am so glad that they went back and did this so that that Solo Spelunker mode is not the only mode that exists. Now, sometimes I might still play the Solo Spelunker mode for a couple of levels just to play and have fun and see how well I can do, but I don't know that I'll ever play it all the way through a sort of campaign until the highest score that I can, because again, it gets long and grindy. You better believe, though, that this co-op mode will get played because I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm loving the new changes, the new dynamics that it adds. I'm loving all of the new cubes that are added and huge monsters that are added in this new expansion. It's been a really, really cool expansion, a really, really cool addition to the game. Now, if I am going to talk about some minor negatives for the co-op mode, there is quite a bit of randomness. And what I mean by that is there's quite a bit of randomness, obviously, in how the cubes are dropped into the dungeon. Now, you do have abilities that manipulate them, but the abilities you get are going to be randomly determined at the beginning of the game and every time you level up. There's going to be randomness in the quests, the gold cards that come out and how they work with each other, and the randomness of how that gold card matches with the random sort of dungeon that gets dropped into the table. Sometimes you're going to get lucky and this thing are going to match real easy and you'll build a room and you're done. Sometimes you got this thing and they don't match at all, in which case you can swap in a new quest as an action, but you are giving up a regular action to do that. And also, of course, you can manipulate the dungeon using your abilities to hopefully do better to match the goals. But again, sometimes you're going to get lucky that it's a little bit easier. Sometimes you're going to get lucky that it's a little bit hard. There is definitely some skill involved. There's definitely some skill that you're going to learn as you play more of this game. But again, there is definitely some randomness in the order that the goals come out, or the type of goals that come out, the order that the huge monsters come out, the way that the cubes drop into the dungeon, and so on. So if you're worried about randomness sort of running the game, you might be a little concerned here. But again, this is a fun, light dexterity game. Randomness is sort of there and should be expected, and it doesn't really matter, because if you fail, it doesn't matter, because it's a fun puzzle to play with. Moving these cubes around, forming these rooms, it's really, really cool concept. The core mechanism is still a lot of fun. The new additions are great. This new Fearless, I can't remember the name of it, Fellowship, is really, really cool cooperative mode. I can't say enough positive about this now that this is here. Again, this is not your deepest, strongest, toughest strategy game. It is a fun, light dexterity game, but if that's something that sounds interesting to you, and you are a solo/co-op player, definitely check this one out with the expansion, because the expansion does bring a whole lot of fun, at least for the solo co-op player, into this game. Thank you again for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the playthroughs and had everything I said was helpful to you. As always, if it was, I do ask that you please remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon below, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks.